Hello everyone! Today I will be presenting on the Excel import utility. This utility helps us quickly and accurately transfer data from Excel sheets into the system without the need for manual data entry. In this session, we will look at how this tool works, understand its key benefits, and go through the step-by-step process of importing data using the custom mapping and default mapping methods. Let's take a quick look at today's agenda. First, we will start with an introduction to the Excel import utility and its purpose. Next, we will understand the concept of Excel import utility in the Onfinity ERP system. Then, we will look at the different Excel import utility methods and their classification. After that, we will go through the process of importing Excel using custom mapping, how to create, map, and import data into the system. And finally, we will learn about the process of importing Excel using default mapping, how to download, fill, and upload the default Excel file for import. So, this will be our flow for today's session. Before we begin, let's take a look at the main objectives of this session. First, we will understand the difference between custom mapping and default mapping in the Excel import utility. Next, we will learn how custom mapping gives us flexibility by allowing users to define their own mapping configurations. Then we will explore how default mapping simplifies the import process through predefined mapping rules. We will also evaluate how both mapping methods help improve data accuracy and efficiency during import operations. After that, we will identify when to use custom mapping or default mapping, depending on different business needs. And finally, we will see these features reduce manual effort and help maintain consistent data migration across the system. So, with these objectives in mind, let's move ahead and understand how these mappings work in the Excel import utility. Next, before we start using the Excel import utility, there are a few prerequisites we need to complete. First, make sure the Excel import utility module is installed in the system. Next, ensure that the Microsoft Access database engine is properly set up on the server. This is required for the Excel import process to work smoothly. Once these prerequisites are in place, we can move on the configuration steps. To import records into a specific screen, we first need to enable the import icon from the right action panel of the screen. Now next is log in using the System Administrator role and open the screen configuration option from the main menu. Then enter and open the required screen name, go to the Action tab, select the checkbox name Import Map, and set it as true. This enables the import functionality for that particular screen. Next one is Introduction. So here we have the Excel import utility, which is one of the most useful features in the Onfinity system. It basically helps us transfer data directly from Excel sheets into the system without entering everything manually. The system automatically maps the data like rows and columns to the right fields. So the import process becomes quick and accurate. This feature really helps in improving data accuracy, saving time, and making data handling much smoother. The main goal of using this utility is to automate and simplify the data import process, maintain consistency, and reduce manual efforts. It also supports two types of mappings: custom mapping, which gives users flexibility to define their own mapping, and default mapping, which allows quick imports using standard predefined rules. So, overall, it's a great tool that makes importing large amount of data simple, efficient, and error-free. Let's look at a simple example to understand how the Excel import utility actually works in real life. Every month, Ria, the billing administrator, receives an Excel file with updated customer details. Earlier, she updated each record manually, which was time-consuming and error-prone. Now, using the Excel import utility, she uploads the Excel file, maps the column, and updates all customer records with one click. This saves hours of manual work and keeps customer data accurate and up-to-date. Next one is Excel import utility methods. So, in Onfinity, we have two main methods to import data from Excel: custom mapping and default mapping. In custom mapping, we can create our own mapping. That means we decide which Excel column should go into which field in this system. It's useful when our Excel format keeps changing, or when we want more control over the import process. Then comes to the default mapping, which is already predefined in the system. Here, We don't need to set up anything manually. The system automatically maps the Excel columns to the correct fields. This method is much faster and easier for regular imports. So, basically, custom mapping gives flexibility, while default mapping gives speed and convenience. Now, let's see the process of importing Excel data using custom mapping. The first step is to create the Excel sheet for import. Here, we add all the required columns names in the sheet 1, like customer IDs, names or address, and then fill in the data. Once all values are added, we save the Excel file. Next, we go to the specific screen in the Onfinity system, where we want to import the data. When we click the Import button, the Excel Import Utility form opens. In this form, we define a mapping name and then map each Excel column with the corresponding database column. The system also allows mapping multiple Excel tabs if needed. Even a user can import multiple lines for a single record. Once the mapping is done, we save it and click Import to transfer the data from Excel into the database. After the import starts, we can check all the import details and logs under the Log section to verify that everything was uploaded correctly. Before moving into the Onfinity system to learn how to use the Excel import utility, I have given a brief overview and explanation of the configuration steps required to enable the import map icon. Now, let's move to the Onfinity system. First, log in using the System Administrator role. After logging with this role, navigate to the menu and type the screen configuration. The system will then open the screen configuration screen. Here, you can see a list of all the screens with their respective names. Enter the name of the screen where you want to enable the Import Map button. For example, if the user wants to enable it on the Customer Master screen, type Customer Master. Once the Customer Master screen opens, go to the fourth tab, that is the Action tab. Mark the Import Map checkbox as true here. See, this is the Import Map checkbox. After that, save the record. After that, verify the Customer Master screen that the Import Map icon is enabled and visible on the Action panel. This same process can be applied to enable the Import Map icon on all other screens as well. Now, log in on the Onfinity system using the tenant credentials. After logging in, go to the menu. Search for the Customer Master screen. Once the Customer Master screen opens, go to the Grid view. Navigate to the right Action panel. Here, you will see that the Import Map icon is now enabled and visible under the Action panel. From this section, user can access and use the Excel import utility to import their data efficiently. So basically, this is the Import Map screen, where we can upload our Excel sheet. Before this, click to the new record. Basically, we can use this screen for the Excel import utility. When we create a new record, you will see the column fields on the screen. The necessary columns include name, price list, payment term, payment method, credit limit, credit status, credit validation. All these fields are required to successfully create a record in the Customer Master screen. Before proceeding with the import, let's first create the Excel sheet with these columns to prepare the data for import into the Onfinity system. Now, open the Excel sheet. See here, this is the Excel sheet. Here, we can already prepare the Excel sheet for import by adding some columns, that is organization, customer name, customer group, price list, payment term, payment method, credit limit, credit status. These are the necessary columns required to create record in the Customer Master screen. This is just an example of how to set up the Excel sheet. It is not necessary to add the columns in the exact sequence. The user's Excel sheet may be structured differently. So, we need to prepare the import process according to the format of the user's file. The Excel sheet should be used and mapped based on the columns and sequence provided in the user's file. Here, the user provide the customer data required for importing into the Customer Master screen. This data is structured according to the system's requirements to create customer records. Once this entire Excel sheet is ready for data import, go back to the Onfinity system. Now, navigate to the right Action panel and click on the Import Map icon. The system will open the Excel Import Utility form. Before proceeding further, I need to explain this form to you first, that how to import data, how to map the columns, and how to select the data. The first step is to select a mapping. The mapping names are displayed in the drop-down list under Select Mapping. Here, user can create a custom mapping and save it. Once saved, the custom mapping will appear in the drop-down. Apart from that, there is also a default mapping that is displayed automatically. In short, custom mappings are created by the user, while the default mapping is provided by the system. Additionally, there is an Add Mapping Name icon here, which allows users to add a new mapping name for custom mappings, and Delete icon to remove the saved mapping names. Next, there is an Excel columns section. When we select the Excel sheet that we have uploaded over here, all the columns created in that sheet will be displayed here. Next, to Excel columns section, we have two icons, one for the download Excel file and the other for the upload Excel file. These icons become enabled only after selecting a mapping under the Select Mapping field. Next, on the right side, we have the Select tab option. Here, the system displays a list of all the tabs related to the screen from which the Excel import utility is opened. For example, if we use the Excel import utility on the Customer Master screen, the system will display all the tabs associated with that Customer Master screen. These tabs are listed here for selection. The tabs include Customer, Location tab, Contact Details, Bank Account, Additional Conditions, and the Customer Default Mapping. Basically, this mapping and export feature also supports importing data across multiple tabs. After selecting a tab from the Select drop-down option, the system will display all the fields related to the tab in the area below. Above this section, you can see two color indicators. These colors represent the field status. When an Excel column is mapped with a system or database columns, it appears as in green color. This indicates a successfully mapped column. The blue color represent default columns, meaning the fields that have been marked as default under System. Now, next move to the lower section. Here, you will find several tabs that is Mapping, Default Values, Log, Error Log. Let's go through each of them one by one. The first one is Mapping tab. In this section, the system displays all the tabs that were listed earlier under the Select tab dropdown, along with their related mapped columns. You can view the mappings for each tab here, and if needed, you can also remove any mapping directly from this section. Next, there is a Default Value tab. This tab displays the list of all default values that were assigned under the System Columns section above for the selected screen tab. From here, if the user wants to remove any default value, they can easily delete it directly from this section. Next is the Log tab. In this tab, the system displays the details of all the actions performed by the users, along with their outcomes. The last one is the Error Log tab. Here, the system display or export the log that is generated after the import process is executed. If any errors occur during data import, all those errors details are shown here under the Error Log tab. Next, below is the Export Log button, which is used to export the log generated after the import process is executed. The exported log file can also be saved for future reference. After this, there is a Save button, which is basically used to save the mapping done between the Excel columns and database columns. Next in the Import button, this button is used to import data from the Excel sheet into the database temporarily. It means the data is not yet reflected on the actual screen. It is only stored temporarily. To permanent save or import the data into the database and display it on the screen, we need to use this Commit After Import checkbox. When this checkbox is checked, the Excel data is imported into the database columns. However, if the checkbox remains unchecked, the imported values will not be saved in the system. Therefore, it is important to mark of the Commit After Import checkbox if the user wants the imported data to appear on the screen. Otherwise, if only the Import button is clicked without enabling this checkbox, the data will not be displayed on the screen. Now, let's upload the Excel file. First, add a mapping name by clicking on Add New Mapping Name. For example, enter Customer Master _ details. Then click on the Save Mapping Name button to save it. If the user wants to cancel, instead they can click on the Cancel Mapping Name button. Once the mapping name is saved, it will appear in the drop-down list. After adding the mapping, the upload and download buttons will be enabled. Now click on the upload button. See, this is our Excel sheet, which name is Customer 1. Upload the Excel sheet here. After selecting the Excel sheet, all the Excel columns will appear on the left side under the Excel column box. On the right side, the corresponding database system columns will be displayed under the system column box. Now, we can map the Excel columns with the database columns by clicking on this map field arrows. For example, organization with organization, customer name, name, customer group with group, price list with price list, payment term with payment term, payment method with payment method, credit limit with credit limit, credit status with credit status. Basically, only one record can be mapped at a time in each instance. After successfully mapping it with the database column, the mapped field will appear in the green color. The star symbol beside each database column indicate that it is a mandatory field. Apart from this, we have also set the default values. For example, if each customer is marked as true, it will appear highlighted in blue color. After mapping all the columns with the database columns, click on this Save Mapping button. Once you click it, the system will display an alert message, Import Mapping Saved, confirming that mapping has been successfully saved. Now, you can verify the saved mapping under the Mapping tab. Go to the Customer CB Partner tab. This tab can be expanded to view the mapping details. Here, you can see all the Excel columns that have been mapped with the corresponding database columns. On the left side, the database columns are displayed. On the right side, the Excel columns are shown. Next, under the Default Value tab, the system will also display the columns that have been assigned default values. If the user wants to remove any mapping, they can do so by clicking on the red cross icon. By clicking this icon, the mapping for that particular column will be removed. Now, let's import the Excel data. Click on the Import button to start importing all the data. The import process will begin, and once completed, the system will confirm that import is done. You can see the logs are displayed here, showing the import progress and result. Importing now result. No error. Import done successfully. After importing, the data is temporarily saved and will not be displayed on the customer master screen immediately. To make it visible, you need to mark the Commit After Import option as a true and then click on the Import button again. Once this is done, the import process will complete and the data will be successfully committed to the system. Now, go back to the screen and refresh the page. You can see that Alex Enterprises is now displayed here. All the details that were entered in the Excel sheet have been successfully uploaded and imported to the system. So, please continue with us in the next video, where I will explain how to map an Excel sheet with multiple tabs using custom mapping.